Hi, so in this tutorial we're going to have a look at motion tracking in After Effects. So in order to try that out, I've got a piece of video here. Drop that on to the new comp button. Okay, shot just outside Parkside. Okay, now the footage is a little long, so what I'm going to do is as I drag my playhead around, you'll notice there's this guy here who's just kind of walking off around the corner. So I'm going to stop it just a little bit before he does that, probably about here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my work area bar back. Okay, so it goes up to about there. And I'm going to right click and trim comp to work area. There we go. So now the work area is only that length, so you'll see the comp is no longer than the point when he walks up to there. Okay, and again, what we'll also do is we will click that and say final quality. There we go. So at least it's not pixelating when I scrub through. Okay, so like I said, we're going to have a look at doing a little bit of tracking now. So there's actually a few things you can generally do with trackers in After Effects. You can track the motion of an object on screen, or you can track where the camera is going. Okay, so you've got motion tracking or camera tracking. We're going to do a motion track first, and what we're going to do with this tutorial is we're going to look at stabilisation. So we're going to look at stabilising the camera movement. You'll notice as this plays through, the camera is quite shaky. So this is handheld camera, you can see it's moving around. So we're going to see if we can just smooth that off a little bit. Okay, so like I said, the camera is handheld and you can see it's so not really very steady. In order to track, we can do it in a few ways. To apply the motion tracker, you select the layer and you can go animation, track motion. Okay, you should also be able to right click the layer and say track motion. Okay, I think you can even right click it there, track motion as well. Okay, you'll see there is a warp stabilizer as well. That's like a pre-built stabilizer. If you can try that, give it a shot. You don't really have to do anything. It automatically tries to stabilize the footage. Okay, it's called a warp stabilizer because it actually warps the video slightly as well in order to kind of match the movement. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't. We're going to look at doing it manually though, using the track motion. Right, okay, so yeah, sorry, let's get back to that then. Right, so let's go here. Animation, track motion. Okay, you see straight away it jumps. I don't know if you notice that, but it goes into a layer view instead. Okay, so we've got a little tracker there, and we're in layer view now. We're not looking at the comp anymore. And the reason it does that is normally in a comp, you've probably got multiple layers. So you've got other things in front of this video layer. And if you want to track something, you really need to see the layer clearly. So it automatically jumps to a layer view. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to just zoom in a little bit as well so we can see this actual tracker box here. Okay, you'll notice it's kind of made up of 3 elements. Okay, you've got your actual tracking anchor point right there in the center. Okay, what you have around it is what's known as a pattern box. Okay, so the tracking anchor is kind of looking at a single individual pixel. Your pattern box is actually looking at this pattern. Okay, that's inside the box. You can see pixels there are a little bit lighter than the ones over here. So it looks at that pattern, and every frame that pattern usually moves because the camera is moving. And this is your search area box around the outside here. And so what the search area box does is that's where it looks for this pattern box. So every like I said, frame, this pattern will probably have moved somewhere, and then the program will look within the search area box to see where that pattern is, and it will adjust this tracker, if that makes sense. So we'll go back to fit for a second. So what you can do is you can then just drag your tracker anywhere you like. You have to be careful not to select the anchor point or anything, because what you'll do is just move the anchor point instead. But if you sort of click in your box, and you can see you can even move the individual boxes. So I'll probably just zoom in a bit actually first. But if I click inside the box, and rather than clicking on any one of these boxes or the anchor points, I don't want to move them, just click inside. You'll see I can move it around, and you see it gives me a slightly zoomed in view, and that's just to help me sort of see where exactly I'm putting it or which pixels I'm going to attach this to a little bit clearer. By the way, so once we've put our animation tracking up, this tracker box also opened up. So a few things happened. Like I said, we went to layer view, a tracking marker popped up, and we've got this here. And you'll notice there's a few things on this. So the warp stabilizer I mentioned earlier is already on there. The camera tracker is also there. We're not using that right now. We've got track motion and stabilize motion. And stabilize motion is what we're going to look at. By the way, yeah, the footage is called stabilisation and tracking. Okay, it's a two-part tutorial. First one, we're going to stabilize it. Second one, we're going to track some motion. So let's have a look at what some of these other boxes do. Right, so it's telling us what the source video is. Okay, current tracker is tracker 1 that we're working on. And at the moment, the track type is a transform. So it's looking at sort of transform properties. Okay, movement. Like I said, it does do stabilize as well, which is actually what we're going to attach it to. And I haven't tried the parallel corner pin actually, but a perspective corner pin is something that uses, or raw. I haven't tried the parallel corner pin or raw, but a perspective corner pin is something that uses 4 points to kind of give the feeling of perspective. So even though you're working with something flat, you can make it bend like it, or yeah, it sort of bends the corners in basically to make it look like you're looking around something. Right, okay, so you've got a few different types there as well, and then you've got what you're actually tracking. So position, okay, so up, down, left, right. That's what you can do with this one tracker here. Okay, so let's put this tracker somewhere. By the way, you know what makes a good track point? You know, is that a good track point? Probably not. Why not though? Because it all looks very similar. So if we can find something that looks a little bit different, something like that, let's say, that would probably track a little bit better. Okay, so and the way that works is because of the data. If you click options down here, you don't have to go into the options box, to be honest. Just want to show you that. One of the things you'll see here where it says the channel that it's using the Luma channel. Okay, so by default it's using luminance information to track. So let's just cancel that. So that means, like I say, if you're kind of using something with very little difference in luminance, that's probably not going to create a good track point. So actually, if you can pick something that's quite dark and light, perhaps, or has a specific pattern like that, that'll be easier to track. And if you think about it, a lot of if you've seen films or behind the scenes where they've got tracking points up, a lot of the times the tracking points are quite dark. So there might be black markers on a white background, something like that. So luminance is generally used by default. I don't know if you notice in options you can have other things on there as well, but again it comes down to compression. So we kind of talked at chroma subsampling and things last time when we looked at green screen. If you think about it, luminance signal is generally sort of one that's least compressed. So again, by default, it makes a good starting point. You can also, by the way, clicking these corners, adjust the size of your search area or pattern box as well. Okay, so you can make them slightly bigger if you need to. Remember, the pattern box is sort of the pattern that it will look for inside that. So again, I'll be fine with that. Right, okay, so right, let's go back to fit. So don't want to make it too long. So we've got all these points we could attach it to. What I'd say is that you'll find obviously things in the distance won't move as much as things in the foreground. So I'm going to place a point, but I'll go a little bit. I'm going to go a little bit closer. I can't go. I think I'm going to go for one of these posts, by the way, because they stand out a little bit as well, because they're quite dark and you've got quite a light wall behind it. So that looks like it makes a good point. I'm just trying to see if, yeah. So that one seems to fit. So we'll have a look at that. So what I'll do is, again, I'm going to zoom in a bit. Just trying to figure out how much on this machine. I can't zoom in as easily as I'd like to. Let's see if we can. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to try and. I would suggest generally you have to really get in close. It's just on this machine it seems to want to let me zoom in, but it doesn't want to let me zoom out. So it's just making things a bit awkward. Right, there we go. So yeah. So like I said, so we've got a specific pattern there. So the pattern box will always look for that set of pixels wherever they are, as long as they don't move more than that. So if I had a lot of camera movement, I might have to make this search area box a bit bigger. Now, the thing is, at the moment, like I said, we're searching only on position. However, let's go back to fit. I can also search on rotation. Okay, so in other words, and if you think about a handheld camera, it's moving around a bit, up, down, left, right, but it might also rotate because I'm holding it with two hands, and you know, one hand might be slightly higher than the other. So the camera is actually rotating. So in order to judge rotation, though, you need 2 points. Okay, so so now we've got a second point, and they're both attached. So I'll try to find something about the same distance. So I'm going to go for this. Well, I say same distance actually. That's probably a little bit further. I'm going to try that camera though. I guess I could go with that post and that camera instead. So let's try that actually. There we go. Okay, so we've got that post, and let's try that post. So again, I'm going to take tracker 2, and again I'm going for the camera because it's again got a good variance when it comes to luminance values. If you have a look at that, okay, it's not looking great there, but oops, is that the camera? There we go. I was about to say, I'm sure it looks better than that. There we go. Yeah, again, it's got a nice clean pattern, you know, light and dark, like we said. And again, you know, I can make that search area box a bit bigger, and that's the pattern box. There we go. So I'll look for that pattern. Right, so once we're done, and you're happy with that. By the way, one thing I didn't mention, actually, I probably should have, is I did that with my playhead at the very beginning, okay, because that's where I want to start. So when you do that, obviously make sure you're at the beginning, because I have seen it, and I've done it myself actually, where I've forgotten that I've been scrubbing through some of my playheads here. I end up adjusting the points, and then I remember they're in the wrong place. So you can see right now they've gone completely wrong place because that's not where the camera and the post were at this point in time. Obviously these points aren't moving, they're not doing anything right now. So you always want to make sure obviously you got the playhead in the right place, otherwise what's the point in setting them up? Right, so once you've done that, okay, so like I said, you can do scale. I think then that'll just add additional, actually that's just additional information rather than points, but I'll keep the scale bit off, it move forward or back. Yeah, so I was going to say, so we'll click analyze forward. You can analyze backwards as well. So you could start on the very last frame, mark something up, and then just get it to work the other way around. But I'm going to analyze forward, okay, see how that goes. Okay, what I'm looking for is to make sure those points hold their position, okay. That's what I want to see. And generally, yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I don't think they moved. Okay, keep in mind, if they do, that's okay. Just, in fact, a lot of times they do. And you have to try again. Just just press the reset button, take your playhead to the very beginning and try again. Maybe adjust the size of the boxes. Maybe try a different point to track. Okay, so don't worry about it if it doesn't work out the first time. Like I said, just press reset, okay, if that point drops. And just drag it back to the beginning and try again. Once you've done that, it asks you to sort of select a target that you want to apply this tracking information to. See all these dots again? That's just keyframe information. So really what it's doing is just keyframing the box every frame. Where does it go? So that's kind of what it's doing. In a sense then, you could motion track yourself without any kind of tracking effect or anything like that. You could just literally, all it means really is a computer is frame by frame recording where that camera moves. Yeah, the wall-mounted camera, or where this post moves. Does it move up a bit? Does it move down? Does it move left? Does it move right? That's all it's doing, and it's just keyframing it one by one. So that's really all the tracker's doing. It's just doing it for us. We're not having to do it ourselves. Well, actually, I don't want to do that. Track type is transform. So I'm going to drop that down and go to stabilize instead. Okay, and there we go. So now I'm going to click stabilize, and I'll just click apply. Okay, and again it asks you, do you want to apply to X and Y, or you can apply it just to the X or just to the Y. Obviously we want X and Y. Click OK, and there we go. And what you find is, so you can see it's moving around. Well, why is it moving around? So let's go to fit. Oh, it is on fit. Okay, in fact, let's just zoom out a little bit then, 25%, here we go. You'll find now, if I play that, okay, it's because it's moving it around like that. Okay. So that's actually why we've lost a bit, because what it's doing is it's actually moving the video around now to keep it stable. If you look at the guy, he's not really, or the video it does look stable. So what I would suggest you want to do now though is obviously, see, that's the thing with the stabilization, is we can go back into the layer, you can just go to scale. I'll go to a point where perhaps, yeah, like that, and I can even just move it around. So rather than just keep scaling it up, I'll move it around. Try that. Okay, so it holds in the frame. Okay, hopefully that gives me something that's quite stable. Okay, it's got some issues because you have to stretch it up and things like that, so it's not great. But it's one form of camera stabilization, so give that a go.